not only do I want to marry you, but if I didn't marry you, what would that be like? And for me, it was like, I don't even want to think of a future without you. So
I think you thought it through more than I did. I actually, at
I just
that
checked
point,
out a couple boxes and
Yeah.
that was funny.
Yeah,
So.
you were fun. Hi, we're Greg and Erin Smalley, and today we're talking about knowing if you found the one, as well as relationship red flags. You know, maybe you've been dating this summer and you're kind of wondering, like, is this the one? Or maybe your older children are beginning to ask this question, like, how do I know when it's the one?
Yeah, because that can be a very difficult phrase for a lot of people. It's a word that's got a lot of baggage because Erin and I, when we use the phrase the one, actually what we're talking about is the one person that you choose to spend the rest of your life together. This is your best friend. This is your journeying partner. This is not the magical person that God preordained from the beginning of time that you're going to be with. Because Erin and I definitely do not believe that God is a matchmaker. God does not sit up in heaven running heavenly dating service. I mean, he doesn't, because such a big part of Christianity is free will. And that extends to in who we get to spend our life with. He gives us free will. God has created a lot of amazing people. And he allows us then to choose. I would say the only caveat to that, so the one thing that he really does say is that a Christian, so a believer, needs to be married with another believer. He calls that being equally yoked. And so that is when he weighs in. That is definitely, if I'm thinking about a green flag, things that really need to be in place or evidence of these things, because they really do help create a strong, thriving marriage. First and foremost, as a Christian, you need to be marrying another Christian, because that's what God is saying. That's his thing.
Yeah. And really thinking about what are the green flags of, yes, this might be the one, looking at how are we managing conflict? So when things aren't going well, how do we handle each other's hearts? How do we do that? Is it healthy? Is it unhealthy? And as well as having the shared experiences to have those different hard times, great times, joyful times, celebrations. How do we handle those experiences? And that's why dating is so important, to get to know each other in some ways through every season.
Yeah, I think for me, thinking about some green flags, we wrote an article called "The 12 Questions That You Should Ask Your Future Son-in-Law." So whether it's a dad or a mom or a guardian, whoever, these are questions that, from research and just from experience, we interviewed a lot of people who had had those conversations. And the one that always throws people, because I've done this actually 3 times now within our own family, so with our daughters. And the one question that threw each one of the guys that I've talked to is, would you marry you? And really what's that, they're like, huh? And it's getting at marriage requires 2 healthy individuals. The marriage is only going to be as healthy as the individuals. And so is there work being done already for each individual to make sure that they're dealing with their baggage and their stuff? And we walked in a lot of junk. I mean, Erin had so much baggage that she walked in. No, I did. It was, because we always ask people on the podcast, if you could go back to that younger you, stand at the altar, what advice would you give?
Yeah. But I think as along the lines with that, it's important that they're not just saying that they'll go and deal with their stuff once you're married.
Yeah.
I would say it's key that they are willing to go in before getting married, to start unpacking. Are we ever going to arrive at the place of being perfect? No. But we absolutely can be growing towards becoming more Christ-like prior to walking down the aisle. So important. It will save so much pain.
Well, that would be the advice I would give the younger me, is you're walking in a lot of wounds and junk, and you really need to deal with that stuff. Now, thankfully, you and I have dealt with that stuff along the way, but boy, I just feel like there would be fewer scars within our relationship and maybe for the individuals.
And there's different ways of looking at that. I mean, what's been really great is we've been able to heal and grow together. But I would still say it's key that your fiance, your whoever you're dating is willing to go in. And even for premarital counseling is so key. And really digging into what are we facing? Like, what are our growth areas and what are our strengths as a couple? Because each couple is unique in what they bring to the table.
Okay, so how did you know that I was the one, the person that you were choosing? Because like our vows, I take you as my wedded spouse. Most of us said that. I take you is saying that this is voluntary. I'm choosing to be your husband, be your wife for forever. So there's that. So how did you know that I was the one for you?
I knew because we had a lot of the same shared values. We both were believers, and we had so much fun together. We really, really did. We did a lot of laughing, as well as you had a level of emotional understanding. And granted, I had so much growth that needed to happen as well. But somehow, some way, we walked into this marriage committed and willing to work through the hard.
Yeah, I had a mentor, Dr. John Trent, and I was asking him, how did you know that you wanted to spend your life with Cindy, his wife? And his advice hit me so hard. It was so good. And he simply just said, okay, imagine, 50 years from now, and you're sitting on some porch and the yard is full of your children and grandkids, and now you look over to this person sitting next to you. Would it pain you if that person wasn't Erin? And it really helped me to go, you know what? As I think about that, as I vision out 50 years, it would absolutely devastate me if that wasn't you next to me, rocking in the chair. Yeah, but it was true. I mean, for me, it fit into God's given us choice here. And as I prayed that through, it really came down to, not only do I want to marry you, but if I didn't marry you, what would that be like? And for me, it was like, I don't even want to think of a future without you. So
I think you thought it through more than I did. I actually, at
I just
that
checked
point,
out a couple boxes.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah,
So,
you were fun. I can remember right before because we had known each other for a long time, so I knew who you were.
yeah.
But I had just decided shortly before we started dating that I was actually going to wait to get married until I was 30. So then I met you. So there was something about you that told me I was choosing marriage much sooner than I ever thought I would. And I'm so thankful we did. We had 2 kids before I turned 30.
Yeah.
So it was...
So sped up your timeline.
You definitely, and obviously I saw something worth speeding that timeline up.
Well, what about red flags? Because certainly it's great to think through the green flags. What does the one really mean, that voluntary choice? But what would you say are some of the big red flags that would stand out when you do premarital? What's going to stand out to you?
I would be watching for addictions, pornography addictions, spending addictions, alcohol, drug addictions. Those aren't going to magically go away.
Let me make sure I understand. So you're saying it's not just the presence of those, but it's what's being done about those. So if someone is actively getting help,
yes,
it's not like,
in pursuing healing.
I'm done, I'm out.
I think oftentimes couples believe like, oh, this is just going to go away when I get married, and that is not the case at all. I would also be watching for, how does conflict go? The great news with conflict is you can learn how to do conflict differently, but if there is abusive behaviors, absolutely not okay.
Total deal
That is a
breaker.
deal breaker.
Yeah.
If there is deceit consistently, that is a deal breaker too. So it really is looking at who is the person, what's their character, And if there are these challenges there, well, maybe just push the pause button to work through some of those prior to walking down the aisle.
Yeah, because even some couples there's a Dr. Scott Stanley talks about this idea of sliding into marriage versus deciding. Like you and I, we decided this is who we want to spend our life with versus, well, we've been dating for a long time, and I feel like I owe it to Erin to kind of take that next step.
Time.
So we just kind of slid, into that, which we did not do that. And to me, that would be a red flag. This needs to be the choice. I am choosing. I want to spend my life with you.
As well as if there's controlling behaviors, that this person is isolating you off from your friends, from your family. That's a concern as well.
Yeah. I think for me, really practically is to, during the dating season, watch and notice how this person handles your heart. So like you're saying, when there's disagreements, but even beyond that, how does this person handle your heart around ideas? Are you included? Is there room for you within this relationship, or is this only about the other person? When you offer an idea, is that, man, let's talk about that, or is that no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So notice, how is this person really handling your heart when there's conflict? Is this person going, hey, I want to listen and hear to understand you, may not agree with you, but I want to understand you versus just shutting you down. I don't want to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that.
Yeah. So really you're saying creating a marriage that there's room for both people.
There has to be.
It can't be about just one ruling the time, the space, the decisions. It's two people coming together.
Yeah.
And that there's room for both likes, dislikes, differences.
100%. I know with our daughters, as I had those conversations with their future husbands, one of the things I would say, well, is this lifelong? Like, are you committed for life? I actually don't ask that anymore, because you're going to be told what they think you want to hear. I think the evidence of lifelong commitment is a person's willingness to keep getting help. Is this person dealing with their baggage and their wounds and their issues? Are they open to mentoring? Are they willing to go get help, go see a counselor? If someone is saying, I won't do that, that's not for me, we don't need to do that, to me, that'd be a red flag. Because I think that teachability is such an important green flag. It's the opposite of going that prideful kind of, I got this, we got this, we don't need help. That's a dangerous position.
In a matter of fact, we just surveyed Ready to Wed previous attendees, previous participants.
Which is our premarital program.
And 92% of them said they would be willing to go in and get help when things get hard, because they will at some point. We go through seasons of, the hills and the valleys, and, are we willing to go in to seek help when things get tough? And get hard. And it's not just saying you're willing, it's going in and doing it. I think that's the value of premarital counseling.
Yeah. The last thing I'd say is probably one of the best things that we can do is to ask your close friends and family that you trust and value for that feedback. Because that was another thing that we saw as we've dug into this, is when your close friends and family support this relationship, that's a green flag. The red flag would be that people are like, I'm concerned, or I don't see it.
Right. I don't like how
you need
he
to
treats
listen
you.
to that stuff. That they get you more than you understand, and if they're against this, that should be paused to step back to go, all right, let's go and see a counselor. Let's really explore this.
Bottom line, seek the Lord as you are choosing who you're going to spend the rest of your life with. Ask for wisdom and discernment. Ask those who are closest to you what they think about this relationship and pursuing marriage. Thanks for joining us. We'd love it if you followed us at Focus Marriage on Instagram, so you can get weekly tips on marriage.
And like and subscribe for our weekly marriage videos, because really, at the end of the day, we want to help you build marriages that thrive in Christ.